and welcome to the BBC's News at 6. Gordon Brown became only the fifth Prime Minister to address both houses of America's Congress today. In a speech that received 17 standing ovations, he called for greater cooperation to tackle the global economic crisis, including action against offshore tax havens. Over and over again, he returned to the ties that link Britain and America, saying it was time to renew the special relationship between the two countries. Here's our North America editor, Justin Webb.
The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
It is an honour to address both houses of Congress, an honour and an opportunity to meet and greet and impress, an opportunity for Gordon Brown to try to persuade America's politicians that America first is not the answer in this global crisis. He started with the easy stuff, a knighthood for Senator Edward Kennedy and a warm endorsement of British-US friendship.
Alliances can wither or be destroyed, but partnerships of purpose are indestructible. Friendships can be shaken, but our friendship is unshakable. Treaties can be broken, but our partnership is unbreakable. And I know that there is no power on earth that can ever drive us apart.
But later in the speech, Mr. Brown got into tougher stuff. What the Prime Minister tried to get Congress to do was think globally. He's talked of global solutions to global problems in the past. Today he talked of the need for financial regulation that affected the whole world. He talked of open markets and rejected protectionism. And he talked of the promise of green technology in which America could lead the way. This Congress has toyed with protectionism, a Buy America clause in the stimulus bill, new restrictions on the hiring of foreign workers. But the world, Mr. Brown told them, was interwoven.
Should we succumb to a race to the bottom and to a protectionism that history tells us that in the end protects no one? No, we should have the confidence, America and Britain most of all, that we can seize the global opportunities ahead and make the future work for us.
There was no applause, but he pressed on, pleading with America's political leaders to see opportunity in cooperation, and in a populist passage, he finally found support.
And you are also restructuring your banks. So are we. But how much safer would everybody's savings be if the whole world finally came together to outlaw shadow banking systems and outlaw offshore tax havens?
The Prime Minister's pitch ended with a plea.
Let us renew our special relationship for our generation and our times. Let us work together to restore prosperity and protect this planet. And with faith in the future, let us together build tomorrow today.
He was warmly received. He has made an impression. But has he won an argument? Will America do what he wants? In April, when the world's richest nations meet in London, we will find out. Justin Webb, BBC News, Washington.
Well, let's go live now to Washington and our political editor, Nick Robinson, who's travelling with the Prime Minister. Nick, we saw some of those 17 standing ovations. He obviously went down quite well over there.
It did go down well, and remember that this was really Gordon Brown's attempt to sell himself, to sell his approach to this economic crisis to the United States. His first visit here as Prime Minister was marked by some pretty awkward attempts to distance himself from George Bush and by, frankly, disappointment in this country that he wasn't Tony Blair. I think he now feels he's got an ally in Barack Obama, and he's got a hearing at least for his message. He has, though, been frustrated throughout this two-day trip, George, by a sense that he's been followed here to the United States by an argument that he's having at home privately with his own ministers and his own aides. Many of them are saying to him, unless you explain what went wrong in the past in our economy, unless perhaps you apologise in some way for your own role in it, no one will listen to your policies for the future. The Chancellor himself suggested it was a time for humility and the acceptance of collective responsibility. I put it to the Prime Minister in an interview earlier today. Did he agree with his own Chancellor?
I think there's always a need for humility, and there's always a need to accept collective responsibility. And I don't think I would run away from responsibility for what happens. I'm just trying to explain to you, Nick, what actually happened around the world. And the idea that I think some people want to suggest that somehow this is a British problem, that was a British government the mistake, Actually, what happened is that around the world, as everybody understands, the whole global financial system seized up. And we have had to deal with that ever since.
So there was no apology and none looks forthcoming. The prize that the Prime Minister has his eyes on is the President coming to London and agreeing to what he calls a global New Deal in early April. The fear he has is that he'll still be dogged by an argument saying, why were we in this mess in the first place?
All right, Nick, thank you. A former England cricketer caught up in the extremist attack on the Sri Lankan team yesterday has lashed out at Pakistan security forces. Chris Broad, who was a match referee, said he'd been promised presidential-style security for the teams. But he said when the bullets started flying, they were just left like sitting ducks. From Lahore, Damien Grammaticus reports.
Recovered today a massive arsenal of weapons. All this was left behind as the attackers fled. It's evidence of just how much carnage they were planning. And new harrowing accounts of the ambush are emerging. Chris Broad, the English match referee, arrived back in the UK today, furious at security failure